History isn't just a list of dates and names. It's a record of power, of who was protected, and who was sacrificed. For every story written in textbooks, there are dozens buried, silenced, or rewritten. Not because they didn't matter, but because they mattered too much. Empires aren't built overnight. They're built decision by decision, law by law, sentence by sentence. And once a choice is written into history, it doesn't stay in the past. It shapes generations. Here on Slatt Tales, we uncover the moments they skipped, the names they whispered, and the truths that still echo today. Because to understand the world we live in, we have to confront how it began. Intro. Before America decided who could be free. Before skin color became a life sentence. Before slavery was permanent, inherited, and racial. There was a courtroom in Colonial Virginia. Inside that courtroom, a single ruling helped reshape history. The man at the center of it all didn't lead an army. He didn't write a manifesto. He didn't make speeches. His name was John Punch. And his punishment changed the future of millions of black people in America. This is not just his story. It's the story of how oppression becomes law. America before racial slavery. In the early 1600s, English America was still figuring itself out. There were no clear racial categories yet. There was no fully developed system of black-only slavery. Instead, the colonies relied on indentured servitude. Poor Europeans and Africans signed contracts, or were forced into them, agreeing to work for a set number of years in exchange for food, shelter, and the promise of freedom. Life was brutal for everyone. Servants were beaten, worked from sunrise to sunset, and often died before their contracts ended. But there was one crucial detail. Indentured servitude was temporary. Freedom was possible. John Punch was one of these workers in Virginia, owned by a planter who needed labor to survive. Who was John Punch? We don't know much about John Punch as a person. No birth record, no letters, no personal testimony. And that silence matters, because it shows how enslaved Africans were treated, not as humans with stories, but as labor to be recorded only when punished. What we do know is this. John Punch was African. He was unfree. And by 1640, he had reached a breaking point. The escape. In 1640, John Punch made a decision that would define his life. He ran. Alongside him were two white indentured servants. Together, they fled north toward Maryland, hoping to escape punishment and claim freedom once their contracts expired. This was not unusual. Runaways were common. Desperation was everywhere. But they were caught and brought back in chains to Virginia. The trial. The men were brought before the Governor's Council of Virginia. This was not a jury of equals. This was power judging the powerless. The council examined the case. 3 men, 1 crime. But they did not see 3 equals. Their ruling was simple and devastating. The 2 white servants were sentenced to whipping, and additional years added to their servitude. Harsh, but finite. John Punch, however, received a different punishment. He was ordered to serve his master for the time of his natural life. No expiration date, no freedom, no appeal. For the first time in recorded colonial history, race determined permanent bondage. Why this sentence was different? This wasn't just cruelty. It was a legal experiment. The court was testing an idea. What if Africans could be enslaved forever? The ruling created a dangerous distinction. White labor could be punished. Black labor could be owned for life. Over the following decades, lawmakers built on this idea. They passed laws stating children would inherit the status of their enslaved mothers. Africans could be enslaved indefinitely. Blackness itself became a legal category tied to labor. The John Punch case didn't invent slavery, but it solidified race as its foundation. The system hardens. By the late 1600s, what began as a precedent became policy. Indentured servitude declined. Chattel slavery expanded. Black bodies became property. White poverty became manageable. And racial division kept the system stable. All of it traced back to decisions like the one made in 1640. 1 courtroom, 1 sentence, 1 man whose name history tried to forget. Erasure and silence. John Punch disappears after his sentencing. No record of his death. No record of resistance. No grave. Just silence. And yet, his legacy lives in every law that followed. Because systems of oppression don't begin with whips. They begin with paperwork. Legacy. John Punch reminds us that racism was not inevitable. It was constructed, chosen, debated, written into law. And once written, it shaped centuries of suffering. Understanding his story means understanding how easily injustice becomes normal and how dangerous legal doesn't always mean right. Outro plus CTA. If this story changed how you see American history, don't keep it to yourself. Like the video, subscribe to Slatt Tales, and stay with us as we uncover the moments they never taught in school. Because history isn't just about what happened, it's about who paid the price.